Right now, somewhere in America, a motorcycle is sitting in a driveway. Keys still in it. The owner isn't riding today, not because anything happened to them, because a phone rang 20 minutes ago about someone else. That happens every 84 minutes in this country. A rider, gone, in the time it takes to watch one episode of your favorite show. So here's what we're actually doing today. Taking that 84-minute window apart, piece by piece, the exact mistake that starts it, the one decision that decides who walks away, and the part almost nobody shows you, what happens in the year after. If you ride, or if someone you love does, you need the next 10 minutes. Let's go. Ask any rider why they think they're safe, and you'll hear the same thing. I'm careful. I know what I'm doing. Unfortunately, the data tells a different story. The majority of motorcycle crashes aren't caused by reckless riders doing something crazy. They're caused by something far more mundane: a car turning left in front of them. Studies on multi-vehicle crashes consistently find that the other driver failed to see the motorcycle at all. Not because the rider was invisible, but because human eyes are wired to scan for large, familiar shapes like cars and trucks. A motorcycle simply doesn't register the same way. Researchers even have a name for it: looked but failed to see. Then there's the second biggest factor: speed. Not always reckless speed either. Sometimes it's just misjudging how fast a bike is closing in, because a smaller object moving at the same speed as a car looks like it's going slower. And the third factor might surprise you: road conditions. Gravel on a curve, a wet manhole cover, a pothole that a car would barely feel, but that can throw a bike sideways in an instant. Put those three together: inattentive drivers, misjudged speed, unpredictable roads, and you start to understand why motorcycle safety isn't really about riding carefully. It's about riding like everyone else on the road is actively trying not to see you, because statistically, they often aren't. Okay, so the immediate emergency is over. The rider is stable or recovering. What happens next is a part almost nobody shows on camera. First comes the paperwork most people never think about: the police report. An officer documents the scene, interviews witnesses, and determines fault. And this single document can shape everything that follows, from insurance payouts to legal claims. Then comes insurance, and here's where things get complicated for riders specifically. Motorcycle insurance often works differently from auto insurance. Many policies have lower default coverage limits, and riders can be shocked to learn that a crash caused entirely by someone else's mistake still leaves them fighting for a fair payout, because insurers know motorcycle claims are easier to dispute. This is exactly why personal injury lawyers who specialize in motorcycle cases exist as their own niche. The laws and biases around motorcyclists are genuinely different from those around drivers. And then there's the part that takes the longest: recovery. Road rash alone can take weeks to heal and often requires skin grafts in severe cases. Broken bones, especially in the legs and collarbone, two of the most common motorcycle injury sites, can mean months of physical therapy. Riders often describe the emotional recovery as harder than the physical one. The fear of getting back on a bike, the flashbacks at intersections. It's real, it's common, and it's rarely talked about in a culture that prizes toughness. Here's a question riders ask constantly: what actually happens to the motorcycle after a serious crash? If the damage is severe enough, insurers declare the bike a total loss, meaning the cost to repair it exceeds a set percentage of its value, often 70 to 80% depending on the state. Once that happens, the bike is issued a salvage title, and it typically goes to one of two places. Some are bought by salvage yards and stripped for parts: engines, wheels, electronics, which then get resold to riders repairing other bikes. It's a surprisingly large industry. Salvage motorcycle parts keep countless older bikes running long after their twin was totaled elsewhere. Other wrecks are bought by rebuilders, who repair them and resell them with a salvage title at a steep discount, which is exactly why experts warn buyers to always run a VIN check before purchasing a too-good-to-be-true used bike. Every one of those salvage-titled motorcycles you've maybe seen listed online for suspiciously cheap, there's a story behind it, and now you know roughly what that story might be. Let's zoom out for a second, because context matters here. Per mile traveled, a motorcyclist is roughly 28 times more likely to die in a crash than someone in a car. That's NHTSA's own confirmed number. Motorcycle fatalities have generally trended upward over the last 2 decades, even as car fatalities have trended down, largely because more people are riding, and because SUVs and trucks have gotten larger and harder for drivers to see around. But, and this is the important part, the risk is not evenly distributed. Riders who take a certified safety course are significantly less likely to be involved in a fatal crash. Riders who wear a DOT-certified helmet every single time dramatically improve their odds of surviving a head-on impact. And riders who avoid alcohol, which factors into roughly a quarter to a third of fatal motorcycle crashes, cut their risk enormously, more than almost any other single factor. In other words, this isn't a hopeless story. The riders who understand the real risks, gear up properly, and ride like they're invisible to everyone else on the road are the ones who write the "I've been riding 30 years, never had a serious crash" story, instead of the other kind. Behind every statistic in this video is a family that got a phone call they'll never forget. A rider who now flinches at green lights. A parent who quietly hopes their kid picks a different hobby. This is the side of motorcycle culture that doesn't make it into the glossy photos and sunset highway shots, but it's just as real, and honestly, just as important to understand if you're part of this world. Riding a motorcycle isn't reckless. Millions of people do it safely for decades, but it does demand something that driving a car doesn't. Constant respect for how fragile that split-second margin really is. So the next time you see a motorcycle pass you on the highway, or the next time you throw a leg over your own bike, remember everything we just walked through. The blind spots drivers don't know they have, the golden hour that decides everything, the paperwork, the recovery, the salvage yards full of second chances. Every part of the story is connected, and understanding it is genuinely one of the best ways to make sure you're never the subject of it. What's your take? Have you had a close call on the road? Or a story about gear that saved you? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and it might just end up in a future video. If this opened your eyes to a side of motorcycle culture you hadn't seen before, smash that like button, subscribe for more deep dives like this one, and I'll see you in the next ride. Stay safe out there.